I'm wondering how many of you out there in Zoom land had heard of the term artist creative facilitator. I hadn't until today, that is. Welcome to Small Talk.
Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Well, hi, everyone. Hey, the sun is shining. And when the sun is shining, I feel good. I also feel good when I get to interview a new person. Ladies and gentlemen, Joanne Dennis. Joanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure for sure. Now, I know you're an artist, but you're not just an artist. There's more involved than that, right?
That's right. Yes, I tend to be sort of, sometimes I call myself a Joanne of all trades because the things that I get into are varied. And I really like doing sort of initiating projects on my own as well as with people. And so what I find is I overwhelm myself rather quickly with all the different things I want to do. And, you know, it is kind of hard to manage sometimes, but at the same time, I'm just having so much fun in life. You know, I really am.
Yeah, I've interviewed a lot of people, and I find that most artists are the same. They have so many different things going on in their head. And then when they get that all in the works, it does become a lot of different things. But I just want to start off with, like, when did you first start painting?
I actually was, sort of discovered painting as a child. Kindergarten, that was my first love. But as life carried on, I kind of forgot about it. And then I got into it again in high school. And in high school, I was painting a bit, got a little overwhelmed by the whole process of other people being better than me kind of thing in the learning process, So, as you grow up, you start to recognize, okay, here's what's stopping me from moving forward with what I really want to do. And one of the things that had happened was I went to university and I needed some money. So I started painting a few things for sale, made a few dollars kind of thing. And that was encouraging. And then I kind of went, but I was doing a business degree and thinking that a business degree would be the right thing to do, was responsible, in terms of getting a real job and all that kind of stuff. So I had all that messaging coming at me from society at that time. So when I graduated, I just sort of dropped the art. And then what happened was this just was, as far as the story, this is always emotional for me, but it's the time that my husband decided to get me art classes for Christmas. And this is like 20 years later. I've got 2 kids. My youngest is like 2 years old. And I've got the older ones like just in kindergarten. And I'm sitting there thinking, what on earth were you thinking? Giving me art lessons. How the heck am I supposed to get out of the house? And I was just mad. I was so mad. And then I was upset and I was crying and I was just like a mess, an absolute mess. And it was so funny because, and I laugh at myself now because I'm sitting there going, oh my God. But it's the fact that he found a piece of me that I had lost.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm.
That's what upset me.
Oh my God.
Like I sit there and I go, how did I do that? How did I screw that up? And so anyway, so what ended up happening was at that point, I'd made a life decision to never give up on my creativity and never stop doing creative things. And so that changed my life. And, I love my husband. He's amazing. And it's like, he's so... What a beautiful thing he did for you, right? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
So, so that's just it. So from there, it was getting over all the hurdles that come with being an artist. So part of what intrigued me about developing my skills as an artist and seeing other people trying to develop their skills and the traps we get ourselves into was really something that caught my attention, because we're getting into traps on our creativity all over the place. Like we have traps around perfectionism, we have traps around the opinion of others and the concern for that. We have the first trap I hit was, of course, thinking I couldn't make a living at it, thinking I wasn't worthy. Not being worthy as an artist is a really common theme out there. And so, so it really intrigued me because I thought, okay, if I want to be a creative person, how do I live to be a creative person? And so it was kind of interesting because I did one of these, I got into self-development at that time. It's like, okay, fine. You've lost a piece of yourself. You're going to find it. You're going to figure this out. You're going to get through all these blocks. And, you know, you start out as a closet artist. You basically, you produce things and you won't show them to anybody.
Right.
And the next stage is usually, okay, fine. I'll show either friends or family, depending on who you trust. It's always somebody that you say, okay, this person would never make me feel like I'm not good enough.
Right.
So I'm going to show it to them, and you show it to that person. And then you kind of open it up to, usually actually friends go before family, because usually it's the friends that are really sensitive around your emotions.
Yeah.
And the family is less so. And so, so it was interesting because once I started showing it to people, I was getting lots of positive feedback. And then and the funniest one was my son. I have an older son who, like right now he's 28, but he has this unbelievably uncanny visual spatial ability. So when he looks at something, he sees what's wrong immediately. And so it's kind of funny. And he's like really direct and really honest. So you don't get no crap from this kid. He tells you exactly what he thinks. So he was actually, because I know the way he is, it was okay. But what I found interesting was when he looked at a piece of art I had in progress, and I'd say to him, what do you think of this? He would tell me exactly what wasn't working every time. And it was like, you are so bang on.
Yeah.
So I started relying on family to give me feedback and to help me progress as well. And then I had this self-development workshop that I went to, and I remembered talking in groups about, what's stopping us from moving ahead with our intentions and all this kind of stuff. And and so I was telling her a bit about this story of when I was a kid and how I discovered, I loved painting. And it was in finger painting in kindergarten. And what had happened at the time was my teacher, like I just did the best thing ever. It was like this floral still life finger painted thing. And it was the best thing I ever created. I'm 5 years old and I'm super excited about it. And the teacher at the end of the class goes, okay, kids, tomorrow we're going to do something else with this. We're going to let this dry for overnight. And then tomorrow we're going to cut it up and make Japanese lanterns. I was crushed. I was like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And I was really upset. And then so it was, that was that pivotal moment where you suddenly decide you're not worthy,
Yeah.
and kids, So here I'm telling these people in the group this story. And I said, it's really been hard because I, lost it. Now I found it and now I'm trying to get it out there and all that stuff. And then they said, so did you bring a piece of your art with you to show us? No. So they made me promise that I would bring a piece of art to the next group session and show it to everybody. Now, this is one of these self-development group things where there's like 100 people in the room, pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so I showed up at the group, and then they said, they started talking about integrity, personal integrity. And when it comes to us looking at our own integrity, one of the things we do is we often lie to ourselves as well. Not just, it's the all those creative blocks and all these other blockages around your personalities that get you. But so they were saying, but when you need to tell your truth, what's going to happen is you're going to experience all kinds of symptoms. You're going to experience the cold sweats. You're going to experience feeling weak. You're going to experience like this whole, flattening where you just sort of go into depression and say, oh, and all this kind of stuff. And so they were asking people to share the outcome of their little group sessions where we were talking. And lots of people were getting up, and my group had said, we want you to go up to the front and show your painting to the group. And I'm sort of like, oh my God, I've got it in a bag with me and I'm hiding it under the table.
Oh.
And that time I was learning with abstracts. My sort of first foray going back into art was learn how to create great abstracts and learn all about it, because I didn't want it to be finger painting. I wanted it to be interesting and exciting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I was sitting there, and here I'm listening to this instructor, and I'm just like shaking like a leaf, and I'm going, I know I told him I'd go up to the front, but I can't do this, and I'm telling myself these things, and then the instructor moves on. A couple of people shared, and then they said, okay, let's go on with today's session. And then they started talking about this integrity thing some more, and I'm just sort of like, he says, and there's a point when it comes to your personal integrity in terms of you needing to speak your truth, where you will overcome all of that stuff, all of those symptoms, all those things that are getting in the way of you being able to put yourself out there. And at that moment, I just stood up and I said, I have to share my truth right now. And I went up to the front, and I took this painting with me with intention to show it, but I wasn't facing it to the crowd. I was holding it, hanging on to it for dear life. And I was trying to explain to them, and I'm just a mess, telling people what's going on. And then finally they said, can we see it? And I turned it around and I faced the crowd with it, and I held it up like it was like I was about to be pummeled by tomatoes, like, and it was my shield, and so it was kind of funny. And then the big eureka out of it was that, at the end of me saying what I had to say, the instructor said, how do you feel now? And I was like, it's gone. What's gone? All that stuff. I was like, I did it. I'm done. I'm not sweating anymore. I'm not shaking anymore. I'm not crying anymore. None of it, And then when the audience looked at this piece, it was a sort of a abstracted version of what I did in kindergarten, really. And what had happened was I shared it, and people looking at it, and then I'm thinking, oh, they probably don't get it, but whatever. I'm not going to worry about it. And then somebody asked me what it was. And I said, it's me lying in a field of flowers looking up at the sunshine. And somebody went, that's what I thought.
Nice.
And I was just like, oh my God, somebody actually understands what I'm doing.
Oh, wonderful.
So that was the wonderful moment out of it all. And then after that, everybody was so, they started sharing, and the instructor said, so what do you guys think of this? And I was going, she is so brave,
Yeah.
And that's when I became brave.
Oh my gosh, what a marvelous story for sure. Wow.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite life stories.
Okay, so moving forward, let's move forward now. Now you're showing your work, and you've gotten over all of those fears, whatever like that. Now have you picked it up and started moving along with it?
Yeah, so what I did was I've learned that the best way for me to do art is to share, because there's something in me that needs to share all the time. And that's when I have the most fun with it. So I started, I finished an adult education diploma that I'd started when my kids were babies, and decided to use that information that I'd learned there to build art classes. And I also took some coaching for learning how to coach creativity, because I really, after all of that breakthrough stuff, I really wanted to help people get through their own creative blocks, and recognize, using the coaching techniques really helped me. So I wanted to help others with it. And so I applied that in with my classes. So I do a little bit of creativity coaching. I created a card deck. I'll show you the deck here.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your bio. I was so curious.
Yeah. So I got this little card deck. Okay. And every card has sayings on it. And so I'm showing it upside down. So for example, here's one of the cards. I don't know if you can read that, but I'll read it to you. So the card goes like this. They always start with an inspiration, and then they have a practice. And it's practices I learned by reading all these creativity books and stuff like that. So this one says, create lower expectations. Make peace with your hopes of perfection. Letting go of your expectations will allow you to tap more fully into your creativity. Focus your thinking and open space for more interesting results than you would otherwise get. So that's inspiration. And the practice goes like this. For 1 week, lower your expectations. Expect just 5% of your progress success, achievement, and satisfaction. Dabble lightly, play freely, without all that internal pressure. Practice, explore, experiment, and have fun.
Nice. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
So these cards were another breakthrough for me in terms of putting it out there to the world. And it took me about 3 years to develop these cards and actually create them.
Okay.
And part of that was, breaking through worthiness, feelings of unworthiness and stuff
Sure.
like that. And so I really built self-confidence through that. And it was a project that must be done. Sometimes there's projects that must be done. You sit there and you go, I've got to do this. I really got to do this. I don't know. I'm a little nervous. I'm afraid, but I'm going to start. And that's what I did with it. And so those cards have been a hit with lots of people. Quite often I actually take them to, or classes and things with me, and I get people to draw a card and they pull a card out of the deck and they go, that's exactly what I need to hear. And it's just awesome. I love that about it. So that was a project in itself, and those integrated into the classes now. And I'm currently doing classes for Port Kells Art Group on Mondays, and then I have my studio where I do classes as well, but teeny weeny groups because my studio has about 4 seats available, kind of thing.
And that's
just a nice little building.
That's in Surrey, right?
Yes, and it's in my backyard.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is another, I'm gonna promote my husband again, I guess, but he
All right.
built it for me.
Oh, that's great. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, he's like my #1 supporter.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So yeah, the studio itself is my happy place. I love it. It's really nice having it in the backyard where I can just step out and I can either have it to myself or I can share it with others. And so the art classes themselves, they just feel good. It just really makes me feel like I'm on purpose, and the sharing and the learning and helping people access their creativity is just what drives me to do that. Absolutely.
Nice. No, yeah, nice. Now you mentioned that you did an abstract, but that's not the only kind of art that you do, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So the big thing about the way I do art, it's all considered an exploration for me. So I love exploring different techniques. I like to explore different ideas around how I can present something. So my classes are like that. When I basically, as soon as I learn a technique, I usually build a class around it. Okay. And so one of the things that I was seeing was, I started with the abstracts, and then I got to a point where I kind of said, I want to explore something else now. And I shifted gears, started doing some landscapes. And then I decided that, and I really enjoy doing that as well. But now it's sort of like, I think I burnt myself out a little bit on it.
Right.
And so now there's a shift happening again. And one of the things that I'm noticing is COVID has really impacted my perspective around my art. Part of it is, seeing people who are losing family members, seeing people who are challenged. Like my mom's in long-term care, and she, has Alzheimer's, and she's lost so many skills that she had, right? She was a lifetime quilter, weaver. She was a very creative person. So one of the things I was seeing about that was there's a need to develop legacy. And so when I kind of burnt myself out on the landscapes, especially during COVID, I was sitting there going with all this art piling up around the house, and I couldn't really get into doing the online art show thing. Like I was trying it first, and then I just sort of like, what, I really don't enjoy sitting at a computer all the time. Right. I actually worked at IBM for 23 years.
Okay.
And I spent all my time on a computer. I have sort of this left brain, right brain thing going on. So when I was at work, I was highly focused and did really intense online work. So when I'm on a computer, it overwhelms me now. Right. It's kind of funny how it goes like that. So I don't want to sit there spending all my time on social media trying to get attention. So I put, energy into making sure my website's clean, and I've got stuff on the Facebook page, things like that. Yeah. But I do prefer in-person everything. Right. So what happened was I started seeing that I needed to shift and change the way I was doing things around the art. And I wanted to start generating legacy, but I also wanted to continue exploring techniques. So I started with, I'm really intrigued by fiber art. So that's like a kind of a departure from the painting a bit, but it's a multimedia thing. So I'm planning on actually integrating paint as well as threads and all these things into the fiber art. And it's because, excuse me, I inherited a ton of quilting fabric from my mother. Like I have a closet full.
That's all right. My daughter will inherit yarn. I mean, I get it.
And so that's just it. So I was sitting there kind of going, what can I do with this? And then and then I got really intrigued by, okay, how can I play fiber and paint and start building things? So I'm recognizing it's really an emotional process as well. So what I'm seeing is the first person I'm planning on doing a piece for in terms of capturing legacy is my father. Now, my father died when I was 17 years old.
Oh, okay.
And so, but I have all this really interesting memorabilia from my mom, because when she moved, it's all that downsizing and you discover things and you're just like, wow, look at this, look at that, and all this interesting stuff. So, so what I'm seeing is I want to capture his story, but I'm finding it actually really hard in a way because it's such an emotional process. So it's a real shift for me in terms of doing the art, because what I'm seeing is I have to slow it down. I have to kind of think things through and go, okay, what do I want to integrate here? You know, what gives this meaning and purpose?
Right.
And that's what I'm interested in now, is give any art that I produce meaning and purpose. And so purpose for me is, you know, teaching people classes, and I produce a lot of art while I'm doing classes as well, because I'm doing a demo and then I have to finish it and things like that. But the meaning part for me has more to do with figuring out, okay, you know what? I love the aspect of discovering who people are, and this whole concept of the life story, you know, it's like capturing everything about a person in one canvas is what I'm trying to do, which is a little overwhelming, but, but I'm trying to do that. So capturing my father involves, like, he was from Quebec and you know, lived on St. Lawrence in a dairy farm. Okay. But he had other visions for his life, and he was actually a navigator on a ship at one point. Wow. And then he had problems with the seasickness, so he had to give that up. And then he met my mom, and then he moved towards Ontario, and then he ended up with at one point was trapping, like he was working a trapper shop where my mom and him were like, they're pioneers, right?
Oh,
some of
wow,
these people were like, they're like pioneers. They, you know, my mom was in this trapper shack with him in the middle of the bush, and she just had her first baby. And they gave her a little pamphlet. This is Ontario. They gave her at the hospital a little pamphlet written in English on how to take care of a baby.
Okay.
And I just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, we think it's hard.
Yeah.
Right? We think it's hard to raise kids in this day and age. And it's like, we have so much information available to us. It's ridiculous. So there was so many stories that come from my mom about my dad and their that whole pioneering day thing. So my vision is to create a map. So it's a map of all the places he'd been. And in the map will be photos integrated in from the old photos that are in there.
Right.
And where he ended, like I was born and raised in Dryden, Ontario, which is where my family home was. And so that whole story, I can totally see it building now, right? Building the story onto the canvas. And it's going to involve a lot of stitch work and lines to sort of make the paths and all this kind of thing. So it's just, I'm continuing to brew with it and collect things, and oh yes, this is going to go in and that's going to go in. And I went and bought one of these printers that will print on fabric, so I can print the images onto the canvas and things like that. So it's a whole new process, and it's exciting. Like, I think I need to go in one of those sabbatical kind of things where I can get away and just do it all and just you know, away from everybody to make it happen.
No, you also consider yourself a artist, creative facilitator, right?
Yes.
So what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, one of the things that I learned to do through IBM was, I shouldn't say I learned it from them. I had the opportunity to practice it there mostly. And I chose to practice it. This was also breaking through on concerns, like there's been a big thing around self-confidence. It's an underlying theme that goes with that fear of being out there with your creativity and stuff.
Right.
And so part of developing my self-confidence was to, okay, get yourself offer something to a group, right? So at work, I used to say, well, I'm learning all about creativity and I've taken this coaching and I'd really like to do some facilitating with groups around the creativity. So they let me do that, which was awesome. And so we did a little bit of that there. And then, but my day job didn't involve that. So it was always a lunchtime event that I would facilitate or whatever, and I would practice my facilitation there. And then I had the best opportunity to do this by a corporate service corps. So they sent me to India for corporate service corps. I spent a month in Bangalore. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
What was really cool about that was I got to go there, nobody knew me. So they didn't know if I was any good or not. You know, and so I was able to, and I really loved the fact that I was matched up with the perfect business for me to facilitate sort of creative talks and learning about, you know, how to be a better you as part of who you are and loving life and doing what you do best kind of thing. And that's kind of the way I approached it. So when I was in Bangalore, what happened was IBM sent 12 of us from different countries. So they were all in work for IBM, but in places like, you know, Germany and Mexico and all this sort of stuff. So we all got to hang out at the hotel together and bounce ideas off each other so that we could work on our projects. And we always had a partner. So my partner was from Mexico. She was the most amazing person ever, Patricia Nunez. She's just fantastic. And so I got to coach her on top, and she loved it and I loved it, and I developed the workshops with her in the process of going, okay, let's do this and this kind of thing. And it was really interesting because one of my funnest experiences there as part of the coaching and learning was we were taken to these, they created these micro business units where this was a charity organization called Mother Earth. And what Mother Earth does it basically creates a workshop. So it'll create a sewing workshop, for example, like they're going to produce something and they'll supply all the equipment. And then they basically pull people off the streets and they say, okay, we're going to create a business unit where every single one of you owns a part of this business. And the lady that runs this whole organization, her name is Neelam Cheever. And she's just an amazing lady. And she said, you know, my challenge is they don't get that they're owners of their own business. They're not getting that. And I need someone to help them get that.
Oh.
So, yeah, so this is the goal.
Okay.
Was trying to teach them how to develop enough confidence to be owners in a business and, you know, make their business work. So she would actually take us, like drive us to all these different business units, and we would go in and I would get to facilitate, and there was some places where it was wild. Like, I mean, it was, the environments were so different one to the next, but there was one I remember sitting there on these grass mats on the floor, and this place was infested with fleas, and I'm trying to facilitate while I'm itching away. and then there was another one where it was kind of funny because it was a very large group, that one, and there was like about, I think probably 40 of them, maybe 30 or 40, somewhere in there. And so basically I thought, okay, how do I get these people to take ownership of their business? So I asked them we did a roundtable. We started going around the room, and I said, so tell me one thing you're proud to be contributing to your business, because this is your business. And by the way, none of them spoke English. So okay. I had an interpreter beside me. Right. And the interpreter had to relay my message to everybody. So here I am talking English, and then he'd repeat, and so it was quite an interesting experiment for me as well. You know, like that was such an interesting, I'm just like, oh, I hope this works. I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
So as you were going around the room, and these people, they're really proud. I could tell, like every person that spoke was like, I bring quality to the table, or I bring, I'm here on time. I make sure that I'm supporting so-and-so or whatever. Like they all had something to say. We got about halfway through the room. And the next guy goes and he says something, and he said it in Punjabi, so I don't know what he said. And the interpreter stops, and the entire room just goes silent. And it's like, okay, what just happened there?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everybody's going off, and they're all, and everybody's talking, and everybody's talking at the same time. They're all excited and they're overwhelmed, and it's like overwhelming the whole room. And it's like, and the interpreter's talking to them, trying to get everybody to shut up for a minute and listen to this guy. And, he was trying to get a conversation happening with the guy. So I said, I kind of need to know what's going on,
Yeah.
beside me, right? And so he says, hang on, I'll give it to you. And so he comes back finally and he says, here's what happened. What he said was, I will contribute to this business when I get paid. And I'm just like, what? And he said, what had happened was the owners made a mistake. And as business unit owners, they had two people that were kind of in charge of being managing the business, and the rest are all, the sort of supporting roles. And so the business managers had decided to swing a deal outside of the recommendations of the Mother Earth group, who basically helped them manage their businesses. So they gave them suppliers to work with. They gave them, it said, okay, here's where you're going to sell it. They even created a place where they could market their goods and all this. And they went outside the supplier list and they got ripped off. So what had happened was somebody spent all the money. Like they spent all the money,
Right.
gave it to somebody who was supposed to provide supplies, and those supplies never happened, and they never got their money back. Whatever. So they were basically going, shh, don't tell the boss, don't tell Mother Earth,
Yeah.
and so they were telling each other that. And then what ended up happening was they were trying to tell their people, well, just hold on another week, we'll get some money going, hold on. And so these people were basically suffering, for 3 weeks without a paycheck kind of thing, or 4 weeks, I don't even know how long it was. And so it was interesting because afterwards, I kind of, once everybody settled down and was allowed to speak again, I said to the guy, I said, that was really brave of you to speak up.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing. And I gave him kudos for speaking up. Everybody was really pissed off at him. and they were all really mad at him. So anyways, and so I said, that was really brave of you. That couldn't have been easy,
Yeah.
And so I said, this is really good learning for everybody, and so you've generated that learning opportunity, just so you know. So then from there I said, so what would you guys like to do now? Do you want to continue with, how you look after your business? And they did. I was really surprised. They did, and they got right back into it. And that's when I went,
Awesome.
I'm a good facilitator. I can do this.
Oh my goodness. Oh, listen, Joanne,
So exciting.
I could keep this going forever, but
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that.
No. This has been wonderful. This has been wonderful. I think I'm going to have you back on, because there's so much more I want to hear from you, but we're just about out of time. And I just want to mention to everybody that you do have a website, right? That people can go onto your website to see what you do. And I also have you're also on Instagram and Facebook if people want to contact you, right? You will definitely have to come back, because we haven't even explored half of the stuff I want to talk about, like your different representations, your discovering parks, creation. There's so many other things, but how about that? Would you be willing to come back on?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so
this is super fun. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll stop it for here now. This is going to air tomorrow. Anyway, so I will render all of this, and I'll get back. Let me say goodbye to the audience first, and then I'll talk to you some more. Okay. So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed what Joanne Dennis is all about, and what some of the things she shared. And again, she's going to be back on because there's so much more. And I love listening to people who are creative and can go from point A to point Z. It's just marvelous. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you'll subscribe and all the rest of those wonderful things. And peace out for now.
Thank you so much.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see.